Hey everyone, thank you for joining me. So today's project is going to be a Spyderco Native 5. This is the full G10 version, and it's the back lock or lockback. Always get those two confused. But this one is going to be interesting because it's an all G10 construction, but similar to the little Native that I just did recently. If you guys haven't seen that video, I'll leave a link up in the corner. You guys can check it out. But this is going to be very similar. This is just a lot bigger than the little Native. So here is the plan. So I'm going to use some ivory G10, off-white. It's a really nice ivory from Current Composites. I'll leave a link to their website where you guys can pick up some of their material. Good stuff. And then I have some Southwest G-Carta. And the way I'm going to be doing this is, here, I'm going to take my little window cutout here so I can give you guys an idea. But this is what we're going for. The customer and I decided on this. So we're going to go down the center, something like this. So this is what we're shooting for. And I'm going to make the pivot area a lot larger since I'll be creating a pivot collar or pivot collars out of the same material to match. But this is what we're going for, and I think it's going to look really good. Very tropical, but that's pretty much it. Let's get straight to it. Alright, so we're back up here in the studio, and I'm going to walk you through really quick of what I did. We'll start with the show side scale here. As you guys saw, I did the inlay here with the Southwest G-Carta, or the Southwest Blanket G-Carta. Just a beautiful material, really vibrant colors. And I gotta say, the most challenging thing with this knife was, I guess there's two things, was getting these holes exactly where they needed to be, because I was fighting the lock bar placement, and I'll show you when it's assembled, but even with the original, the lock bar was sitting just a hair lower than the backspacer, and it's just something I couldn't fix. Again, I don't know exactly what it was, but I got it really, really close to where it looks good, and it doesn't affect anything, so I'll show you guys that in just a bit. And then another thing was getting this centerpiece of G-Carta to be perfectly lined up with each other. I guess if I can put them together real quick, just to mirror them. And it took some time, but as you guys can see, I got really lucky, and it looks really, really good. It's a tad off there, but I'm going to take it, because if I was to mess with it even more, it would have been thrown way off. But really, really happy with it. And again, this is Ivory G10 with that Southwest Blanket G-Carta. And of course, another thing I did was I created some pivot collars out of the same material. I took a section of that material where you get all the colors. I wasn't able to get the white but I was able to get those more vibrant colors, and I think it looks good. And again, I'll show you guys that when it's all assembled. I didn't do anything else to the backspacer or lock bar, so that's still the same. Blade is still the same. And then one thing I did do was put a satin finish on the hardware, just so it gives a nice sheen to it when it shifts in the light. And I'll show you that as well when it is assembled. But that's pretty much all I did. So let's assemble this thing and see what it looks like. So here it is all assembled, and as you guys can see, super clean, and I made sure for those pivot collars to match the angle of the inlay, so really nice. And I do like how the color complements the deeper, more bright colors. I think it really helps enhance the inlay, and as you guys can see, the satin finish on the hardware really makes that hardware pop, just like the satin finish on the spine and the backspacer and lock bar. I did lightly touch up the backspacer and the lock bar just to really make that satin finish nice and cohesive from one piece to the next. So I think it looks really good. One thing I really made sure was that this knife was perfectly centered, and I took a lot of time to get there, but really happy with the centering. Action is very smooth. Lockup is really good. Drop shut, just as good as before, maybe smoother. Not trying to toot my own horn, but definitely drop shutty, which is really nice. And made sure that there's no blade play. So this thing is really solid. And like I mentioned before, as you guys can see right there, just like the original scales, the lock bar is just a tad under the backspacer. But again, there was nothing I could do about it. I tried many times to fix it, but it is still functioning very well. The lockup is really good. And then when it's closed, so you guys can see right here, it is perfectly flush with the backspacer. So super happy with that. I did round off these corners a bit, just so they weren't as aggressive or sharp. Same on the bottom of the backspacer, just to give it a little extra class or a little touch of custominess to it, if that makes any sense. As always, you guys, let me know down below what you guys think of how this thing turned out. And one thing I really wanted to focus on was comfort, or the ergos. So I created these bevels very similar to the Lil Native, but I did a tapered bevel from the front to the back here where the lock bar is. So you can see there, goes from thin to wider in the back. And then where the access for the lock bar is, I did bevel here just for aesthetics, but it also feels a lot better in hand since it's not as blocky. I did a small bevel on the back, and then just to match the front, I did do a tapered beveled section in the back as well. You can see from thin to thicker towards the center of the grip. And then the finger groove, I really wanted to be comfortable, so I went pretty large here where that finger groove is, and then faintly tapered it into the just regular bevel there. Obviously added some tung oil to make those colors pop, but couldn't be happier. Very pleased with it, and I hope the customer is pleased as well. And I'm sure you guys noticed no pocket clip. I left the pocket clip off because I wanted to not damage the finish on the Jacquard, and the customer is going to be installing a Lynch Northwest clip, so I'll just leave it to him to do that. And as you guys saw in the video, I did use a triangular piece of brass, and then I just tapped it with the 256 tap to accept the screws, the original screws that comes on the Spyderco. As always, you guys, thank you for watching. I really appreciate the support, and I will see you guys on the next one.